message would this send to the rest of the league if you say, Lionel Messi, you don't have to come. It's okay. You can play this weekend. And meanwhile, FC Cincinnati would look at their two star players and say, we sent them. They didn't want to go.
Inter Miami will be without Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba for Saturday night's game against FC Cincinnati. They are the top of the table in the East. Miami currently 7 points back, 3 games in hand, though. Both players suspended after missing the All-Star game. MLS announced the ruling Friday afternoon, citing league rules that bar players from competing in their club's next match if they miss the All-Star game without league approval. Now, Alba was carrying a knock. Messi was reportedly dealing with fatigue, but the decision stirred controversy. MLS Commissioner Don Garber told The Athletic it was a very, very difficult decision, adding, nobody has done more for Major League Soccer than Lionel Messi, but we had to enforce our long-standing policy. Garber said the league will reevaluate the rule for future years. MLS doesn't get everything right all the time. I'm committed to working with players, including Messi, to adapt this policy. Now, Messi played 90 minutes in every Inter Miami game across multiple competitions since April 30th, including 9 matches in just over a month. Inter Miami head coach Javier Mascherano had hoped both players would be available Saturday and even suggested moving the All-Star game to weekends to allow more rest during Friday's media availability. For more on this, let's hear from our Spanish football correspondent and Messi biographer, Guillem Balagué.
Nope, I cannot explain why a serious league decides to punish, to suspend their best player because he's not available for a friendly. That's basically it. Okay, some will say there is a rule that says that if you're not available for that match, for the All-Stars, you get suspended. Let's change that rule, eh? Because it makes no sense. This is a league that's talking about not prioritizing the commercial side to make it a proper competition, to attract international stars, and all of a sudden you go and suspend Leo Messi not to be able to play a game at the weekend in which, by the way, Adidas and Inter Miami were going to release their third kit. That was a better opportunity to do commercial stuff in a competitive game. But no, in a league that obviously should care about the well-being of players, with a player that actually wants to be fit for the competition, he says, I cannot do more overnight stays, more travel. It would have been a week of rest after having played Inter Miami, they've done 4 or 5 games in 15 days. And instead of being praised in a time where every league in the world is concerned about the well-being of players, another thing is what they're doing about it. But certainly the MLS had an opportunity to lead the way and say, you know what? Well done, Leo Messi. You told us that we were stretching your physicality, your stamina, by making you play what it is really a friendly. Let's stop that. It would have been such a great opportunity. And right now what you've got is a club that's upset, a club that has been carrying the flag of the MLS in the Club World Cup, the most talked about MLS team in the last, decade, for what they did in the Club World Cup, for having Leo Messi and Jordi Alba and Busquets, etc. And yet what the MLS does here is punish Leo Messi. It makes absolutely no sense. And knowing Leo, I just want to see the reaction to this. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be happy. Quite the opposite.
All right, great stuff from Guillem Balagué. Let's bring in Tom Bogert, who covers the MLS for us. Tom, thanks for your time, man. Sorry to take away from the yard work. I know you're trying to get some things done. You saw where Guillem was. Where are you in this whole situation? The rule has been written for many years. Did the MLS do the right thing?
I respect Guillem a whole lot, and everything he said, or most of what he said, I think is true, right? Like, this is a lot of games for Lionel Messi. It is better for him to not play in this game, but this is a rule. This is something that is known. It's a no-win situation for Miami. It's a no-win situation for MLS. And here we are. There is nothing that could have placated everybody. Lionel Messi will miss this game this weekend. It is a huge game in the race for the Supporters' Shield this season. I completely understand his reasoning for not playing. He has played 90 minutes in 9 games over 35 days. He is an older player. He is very competitive, so he will not come out early. That's something managing owner Jorge Mas today said. He said, yeah, maybe we would like him to come out of games with big leads, but Lionel Messi doesn't do that, and that's up to him. You didn't come. You didn't show up. It kind of has to be the suspension because FC Cincinnati, their MVP candidate, Evander, he went and played. Do you think he's tired? Miles Robinson, he's been on international duty and played for Cincinnati. He went to the All-Star game. He played. Do you think he's tired? What message would this send to the rest of the league if you say, Lionel Messi, you don't have to come. It's okay. You can play this weekend. And meanwhile, FC Cincinnati would look at their 2 star players and say, we sent them. They didn't want to go. I sympathize with the situation for Miami. You are allowed to take this decision to not come and play, but with this decision does come with a consequence. It is unfortunate for everybody. I think Don Garber showed it in that quote that you guys ran at the beginning of the show, that he was conflicted, the league is conflicted, but ultimately they had to do this. Jorge Mas thinks this rule is going to get changed. And I think it should, but my only worry is who is going to show up to the All-Star game? Why would Lionel Messi say yes in the future? Jordi Alba? Why would even Evander say yes in the future? The players who have the most money, who are the biggest stars, I bet that they would prioritize rest over an All-Star bonus.
It's interesting, though, because Jorge Mas said, the managing partner of Inter Miami, said that it was the club's decision to hold out Messi and Alba. So it seems to me like there wasn't a lot of communication there. Like, was the league aware of this before the All-Star game? The messaging wasn't out there till the morning of the All-Star game that they weren't going to be participating. So could this have been avoided maybe with a bit better communication between the league and Inter Miami?
It was all happening in real time. So, no, the communication was not good. Jorge Mas said this. Don Garber said this. The way that it went is Monday, they were going back and forth maybe about, hey, how do you feel? Maybe could you go? Maybe, hey, what if they show up and just physically show up, but they don't participate in the game? Will they still be suspended? Jorge Mas didn't say yes or no, but I think that they would have been there just, waving from the crowd if it resulted in no suspension. So I assume that was a no. MLS did not find out until Wednesday morning. I'm talking to sources like this was the biggest story around the All-Star game in Austin all week. And I'm talking to people. That's the first thing you say. And I felt really, really confident on Monday and really, really confident on Tuesday that he and Alba weren't coming. But every source that I spoke to said yeah, but if he wakes up Wednesday morning and says, I feel okay, he's just going to take a flight and come. So that was part of it too. Miami didn't tell MLS until Wednesday morning. Commissioner Don Garber said, we should have known earlier and we should have communicated this to our fans earlier. He was not happy. Jorge Mas understood and said, yes, the communication needed to be better, but this was all happening in real time.
Yeah, if I'm Inter Miami, I don't know, they won 5-1 their last match. Just say they're hurt afterwards. That would have been real planning ahead. That would have been the way I would have handled it, but I'm not the most ethical guy, I guess. Let me ask you this, though. You mentioned the rule change and how this would impact in years ahead. Garber said we're going to look at this and may change the rule. If you do that, are you essentially just cutting out the value of the All-Star game? Because as you mentioned, a lot of guys are just going to skip out on this.
I think you are. So I think more logically, this should be moved to its own weekend. That's something Guillem said, too. And I think MLS would agree with that, except there's no space in the calendar. And they're not blameless because guess what? There are 6 games in MLS tonight, 48 hours after the All-Star game. That is nonsensical to me. I spoke to one head coach who used an expletive, idiotic. And I can't use the other word. So everybody I spoke with said that this is dumb. And again, if you just think logically, this is silly that there are games 48 hours later. Well, Leagues Cup starts next week. So they had to move up a couple games this week. So MLS is at fault for that because they are contributing to the fixture congestion. But the Club World Cup is one of the reasons why Miami have had so many games in the last 35 days. Everything gets expanded across the world. International breaks. They have more and more games everywhere. So MLS is part of the problem for fixture congestion. But that's why this game isn't a standalone thing on a weekend. The league would love to do that. But there is no time in the calendar right now. Next year, if they do the All-Star game again, which I'm very much assuming that they are, it's going to come right after the World Cup final. What if Messi and Argentina play in the World Cup final? It's just a really interesting position, a really interesting spot. I think that there's no easy answer, but again, nobody comes off as a winner here.
It does seem like it's almost like fixture congestion just adds to this entire problem, right? And it's kind of what it all goes back to. This is not the first high-profile player that has been suspended. I remember Zlatan Ibrahimović not reacting well when he was suspended as well. How does this feel different, being that Messi is obviously the face of the league, the biggest cash cow of the league, and now won't be playing in a massive match in the Eastern Conference against the leaders in Cincinnati?
Yeah, the difference is that Messi has been playing more games than Zlatan did during that time. Zlatan did come out and give those quotes. What Jorge Mas said about Messi and Alba is that they were very upset. And one of the quotes was, Lionel Messi is extremely upset. I'm hopeful it doesn't have an impact long term. This was when he was asked about Messi signing a new contract. I don't know if that's just pressure. I don't know if that's just lip service, but he is saying that Messi is very angry, very upset. I wonder if he will talk. He doesn't do a lot of media, but he did one earlier this year. He wasn't scheduled to after a game. He was upset about refereeing. He turned to Apple TV's sideline reporter and said, let's talk. Here we go. So maybe Messi does that the next game he plays if he's still upset about it. Maybe he has something else to say. I will point out, though, that the difference in MLS in 2018 to 2025 is very large. So I don't know if that's an exact comparison, but Lionel Messi drives everything. Zlatan Ibrahimović did too, but it's just a different level right now. Jorge Mas said that 30 million people across the globe watched Inter Miami versus PSG in the Club World Cup. That was a huge number. And, like, I get it. You got to have him playing in all of those games. You got to have him playing in the regular season games. Was there a way that, hey, maybe he could have played the last 20 minutes or sat the last 20 minutes against the Red Bulls when they were already up 3 or 4-1 and the game was out of hand? Maybe. But look, like, making this decision for Messi's best interest, I'm totally fine with. But it does have to come with a consequence, or you get the rest of the fan base extremely irate about this decision. I will say, even reporting on it through this week, I got a whole lot of, oh, why even bother? Like, he's obviously not going to get suspended. I was speaking to people in FC Cincinnati. This morning, they were planning that Messi was playing this weekend. So it's a really difficult position all around.